Hi everybody, welcome back to Northern Sounds ASMR. It's been a while since I've posted a video. Life got in the way, a few things have happened, a couple of things to tell you. Also, what is going to happen round about the time I post this video, which should be the 14th of April. It's quite an anniversary for me. Excuse me, coffee. Quite the anniversary, because it is the 30th anniversary of the opening night of LesMisReunionRamble at the Palace Theatre in Manchester, which is the first time that Cameron Mackintosh had taken a production of its size out of London. That is to say, not to another country, but in the UK. And amazing time, amazing night, amazing people. But what happened on the very night, and if there's one or two of you old enough to remember, or you can even Google this, if you know the show, the old version of the show, there's a more recent version, and what they've done is taken away a lot of the mechanicals. There is a giant revolve, so the stage is a huge set. We had they'd replaced the Broadway set and they shipped this one back to the UK, and we had that because they had a new one in New York. So we went up to Manchester with this, and it was enormous. And the revolve is in the middle of the stage, basically is a gigantic circle, which does, as it says, it revolves, so the stage revolves. And it allowed us to, if you've never seen that production, you won't get to see it now. Fascinating thing, very cleverly done. Thought up by Trevor Nunn and John Curd and others. And there were tracks that you could not see from the auditorium because the stage was grey, basically. Which coincidentally, after a year on that stage, we all ended up grey. And things would be pushed on. There'd be a set of gates and pillars. They'd be slid on, and then the revolve would turn to a certain angle, and the audience could see it, and then revolve back to a certain way and push off. Anyhow, the closing of Act 1 is what everyone considers to be the grand finale of the piece. It's the One Day More. The end of Act 1 is the big setup for Act 2. And the revolve broke down. It just did not work. The hydraulics died. The mechanics of it all died. And there we were, explaining to the audience. We were standing on stage, and I think it was Fiona had to go forward and explain what was happening. To tell the audience that we couldn't do Act 2. And the only reason we couldn't do Act 2 is because the barricade comes on. The only reason we couldn't do it is because it was opening night. There were plans. It was called Plan B, and you'd physically bring implements on, and you'd do the show by bringing chairs and boxes and stuff on a pretend barricade that you would build, as opposed to this gigantic piece of equipment which came in like that and then locked together like that. So this thing didn't work, and the cast are in tears. We are standing on stage. We have been working for weeks and weeks. We have been working from 9 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, rehearsing, building characters, developing the show, blah, blah, blah. And we were all exhausted, basically, because, it's basically a 3-hour opera, physically demanding thing, and you're running around like an idiot. If you're not on stage, you're in the quick change bay getting dressed to go back out on stage. And so this thing just didn't happen that night. In the audience, however, are quote-unquote celebrities. One of those celebrities being Les Dawson before he popped his clogs. God bless him, one of the funniest men alive ever to have lived. And he shouted, "Tell us how it ends," which brought the house down. We, including the cast we left. That was an amazing night and a great party afterwards. We had a hell of a time. we downed some of Cameron McIntosh's champagne. Thank you very much. We made him a few quid along the way, don't worry. He ain't poor. He did not come out of it minus. He's definitely in the plus column. But that was a fascinating night. So I hadn't been in touch with these people for more than 2 decades. And we stumbled across each other, upon each other, through a phone call made to my old family home, got hold of my sister, got hold of me, blah, blah, blah. And I made a phone call and we got back in touch, and we were in touch via Facebook, and it was very, very nice to meet. Well, not even virtually meet, to meet via Facebook these people again. And I met a couple of guys who were in it for a long time, and they tour the country with a show called Beyond the Barricade. And they do show tunes. It's a concert, a show tune concert. And they're very, very good. So we went to see them in Liverpool, the Empire Theatre, and we met up afterwards and took some photographs and reminisced for a bit. And with the idea that what we would like to do between us all is have a proper reunion. And then COVID hit. And we were all in lockdown. And Beyond the Barricade could not tour because there were no theatres. And lots of the cast who were still in that line of work could not work. Others have since, like me, left the business. We don't do that kind of thing anymore. But slowly but surely we started to get back together. Anyhow, Andy and Fiona, between them, have organised a virtual reunion. That's the best thing I can call it. And so we are using Zoom, God bless it, on Thursday night, on the 14th of April. And we are going to have a virtual reunion. I will have a glass of bourbon and Coca-Cola. This is just Coca-Cola. Not that I'm advertising Coca-Cola, but it's with, if you're going to mix a bourbon, do it with something half decent. Cheers. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. That should be great fun. I'm meeting up with some old people, some of whom scattered as 4 corners of the earth these days. One guy is working with opera in Los Angeles, and he's out there. Phil. Now, Phil, what a guy. Phil was the archetypal actor. People I know would have called him a kind of guy who wears a felt hat, you know, with Victorian big hats. He's a proper actor. He's very, very good, very, very British. He's made a few pieces along the way. And he's been in touch. And people have been sending reminiscences, so photographs backstage, photographs from some of the fans of on stage. There was an ensemble photograph on the barricade, all of us posing for the camera. Unfortunately, there was another guy, Mitch, and myself, and we were both quite. He seems to think he was over the top, but I don't think so. There is a company photograph, and it's taken from the front of the stage, and it looks up at us all in this V formation, the end of Act 1, and the big red flag flying, and you can see, I think, that much of me, and I'm not sure you can see Mitch at all. And it's a company photograph. There's supposed to be everybody in it, and so I cling on to that. It's used in many, many, many productions of Les Mis around the world. They use that photograph as the poster outside, and I'm hardly in it. So my claim to fame is I'm hardly in the photograph. But I'm looking forward to that. That would be nice to reminisce. 30 years, 30th anniversary. I cannot believe it. I can't believe it. Time marches on. which is why it's been such a while since I've made a video, because, hey, we were in lockdown and then family things happen, and then people got ill and then people got better. And there was no time to devote to doing this kind of things. Also, we got some new dogs, which I think I mentioned in the last video a long time ago. And so I was looking at keeping an eye on them and training them and stuff like that. So life just got in the way. But a couple of weeks ago, we took a trip to Norway to see my wife's family. She has cousins out there, and scattered east to west. So we'd booked a flight to Bergen, which is kind of northwest, and directly from Manchester. Now, I don't know if it was travel restrictions or just a lack of customers, a lack of people wanting to fly, or I don't know. So what we ended up doing was flying from Manchester to Oslo and then catching a flight from Oslo to Bergen. And the odd thing about that is, after we'd spent time in Bergen, we were then getting the train back to Oslo to visit other family members. However, a couple of things happened on the way to the theatre, as the expression goes. As we got to the airport in the UK, we got to Manchester Airport, I'm sure those of you in the UK have seen news footage of queues, enormous queues, stretching for hours at Manchester Airport. And we thought, well, we'd better get there early because we don't want to be part and parcel of all of that. It transpires that those queues were for Terminal 1 and we were in Terminal 2, which has recently had a renovation. Is twice the size it was. It's football pitch size. It's enormous. Nice new clean toilets, which is always a bonus, and a huge foyer. Now, I don't know whether it's a COVID-related thing or whether it's a lack of... It's the lack of staff is what I'm trying to say. The airline we used only appeared to have 2 members of staff. Now, the idea was we were due on board the plane at 1:15. And so we left. We met at 9 to head that way. So we left here a little earlier, but the rendezvous was at 9, and we headed to the airport, and we got to the airport for just after 10. And we sat in the foyer, knowing that the desk, the check-in desk, was going to be open at 11:15. And we thought, if we're there early, when it opens at 11:15, we can go through, we can hit a bit of duty free, and we can go and have some lunch, and then we can chillax a bit, and then we can catch the flight to Oslo. Well, they didn't open the desk. And they didn't open the desk, and they didn't open the desk, and they did not open the desk. They eventually opened the desk at 12:30. Now, the flight is 1:15, so we've 45 minutes to get through. We hadn't eaten anything. 45 minutes to get through. So, number 1, hit duty free. If any of you have been to Norway, you will realise how much it costs to buy booze. So we sent the request out to the family, what do you want? And it came back with gin. Well, gin, we'll have some gin. It used to be brandy and scotch, but obviously the flavour at the moment is gin. So gin. So, and you can buy 4 litres of gin for your own inebriation. You can buy 4 litres of gin, that's your allowance per person. So we ended up getting 12 bottles of gin to take through, because it's a big family and they're scattered and they've all got children and wives and girlfriends and husbands and blah, blah, blah. So as we were being looked after, kept, driven around, we took some booze with us. That meant that we did that. We wandered through. We ended up going to Pret-a-Manger, for a sandwich. We grabbed a sandwich and we walked through to the gate, and we stood there and we shoveled sandwiches down our neck, and we washed it down with a bit of fizzy water, a bit of fizzy cola, and quick run to the loo, and then the gate opened to get on the plane. Now, the two members of staff that checked us in at the check-in desk, which was open later, walked through the airport, and they were the two people who put us on the aircraft, so that there was no staff. Now, if I was a retailer at Manchester Airport and I knew that people were being given this length of time to get through, I'd be fuming, because I imagine their rents must be enormous in that organisation. You know, you pay a lot of money because you've got a captured market. There's nothing that they can't go anywhere else. You know, if they're going to eat something, they have to eat it with you in that area. And there was nobody there, so you couldn't get through. So whoosh, we ran through. So if I was them, I'd have been going nuts. I'd have been complaining like crazy. We don't know how they fare. It's hit the fan a bit. If you've seen the news, it's really hit the fan. The Council Manchester, Greater Manchester Council, are a part owner of the airport, so they're shareholders. So they've got very angry. The Mayor, Andy Burnham, has been on the news saying they need to do this, that and the other. And the chief exec has resigned or been replaced. So they're shaking things up. But there's a lot of money been missed. And you're making people wait. You're making them get there unnecessarily hours earlier than they would be. And we were fast-tracked. If we hadn't paid for the fast track, Lord knows how long it would have taken us to get through. So, an inauspicious start. So we flew to Bergen, and it's a very nice flight. It's a very nice aircraft. It's a bit of a shuttle. It's not, the seats are a wee bit narrow. Good job I'm the size I am, but those Scandinavians, boy, are they big. And I don't know how they fit in the seats. I really don't. However, we got there with no mishaps, and we then walked through. Now, this is the big thing. I hadn't travelled for a couple of years, and now we are no longer a member of the EU. Well, guess what? You get stopped and you get asked at security, at that thing where they check who you are and stamp your passport. When you get your passport stamped, I can't think of the word at the moment, immigration. What's the nature of your visit? How long are you staying? Do you have a return ticket? This is crazy. Now we're visiting family. Previously, we've just wandered through. Hi. Got it through the check-in, and somebody turns up with a car, and we get in the car and we go to somebody's house. It's always been that way, but not any longer. Now we have to answer questions. So, well done for voting for Brexit. I'm not getting political. So that was really quite amusing that I had to answer these questions. Anyhow, we went to stay with family, and they've got to us a new child who is now 2, because we haven't been able to see him. And little Henrik, beautiful little boy, bouncing baby boy, and he decided we were going on a trip, and a bunch of them were in that car, and I was with the parents and the child in the other car, and we were gassing away, jalla. And little baby Henrik goes, "Buh," and decides to projectile vomit in the back of the car. So, hey, it's babies, they're teething, that's just what happens. So we stop and we pull over and we wipe everything down. And we send a message saying, we'll follow you to the restaurant to meet the rest of the family, but we're going to have to turn around and go back. And we're going to have to get changed and clean the car. And so what we did was we swapped cars. because it's baby sick, and you know how that stuff lingers. So one of the parents decided to stay with the little fella. Best thing, you know. And there was more bodily action later on that day. So we thought nothing of it, and everything was fine. And then we spent another day there, and then we got the train. Beautiful train journey. If you've never done it, you really ought to. Either way, from either Oslo to Bergen or Bergen to Oslo, and you go over the mountains, and you go to the highest point, and it's stunning. There are waterfalls and cascades and lakes and glaciers and snow and ski resorts. It's just absolutely beautiful. It's beautiful. We've done it twice before, and it's a wonderful, wonderful journey. And it's hours of relaxation. You're sitting there and you're just watching the good green earth go by. It's delightful. And then we got to Oslo. Oslo's a fascinating town. The big city, which, you know, isn't that big because there's only 5.25 million people in the entire country, but still in all, a beautiful place. And it's got strange juxtaposition of ultra uber modern at the harbour. And then you go back and they have the palace, and they have what is euphemistically called Penis Park, because there are lots of naked statues there. 1945, I think. A fantastic park, Frogner Park, beautiful, and we enjoy going there. And so we were set to go there, and we were taking a member of the family who hadn't been to Oslo. We've been to Bergen before, but not been to Oslo before, so we were taking them with us. And we were also meeting another cousin, and we were meeting another cousin on top of the opera house. And in the harbour, there is the opera house, which is this beautiful thing, and it looks like white marble. I assume it's concrete, but it's got this sloping roof, which you can walk up and walk around and walk back down, and you get a vista across the fjord, and it's a fantastic place. Really worth the visit. Freezing cold, -3, wind blowing, big coats and hats and big gloves. And the Norwegian contingent turn up in a waistcoat and a hat. It's, you know, they don't feel it. And then we went to a beautiful Italian restaurant on the waterfront. We'd walk through town because we were a little early, so we walked through the centre of town and saw where the ceremony for the Nobel Prize is handed, and the balcony where the winners stand and wave down and are congratulated by everybody. Fabulous. Mainland Europe is wonderful for stuff like that, don't you think? It gives you go, wow, ooh, ah, I love that kind of thing. So we got to the restaurant, and I'm feeling a little dizzy, and I've got kind of a bit like inner ear. If you've ever had inner ear flu, you go woo, 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 and it's the same kind of thing as vertigo, as seasickness. It's that kind of thing. And so I must look at the camera. Seasickness, that kind of thing. And I really wasn't feeling well, and the temperature was up, and long story short, I picked up the bug from the baby, because the bug happened to be norovirus. Oh boy, and I did not know. And you are only contagious when you are at the stage of evacuation. So I made it to the toilet in the restaurant. Oh dear, I'm not good with that kind of thing. I am not good with that kind of thing. So it's been over 25, 26, 27 years, more than that, since I've been ill. I'll do anything but be ill. And so I had to go back to the hotel, and I'm violently ill. And I'm sorry, violently ill. This thing is just coming out of me. It is like a Monty Python sketch. It is not real. I can hear myself now lying in the toilet going, oh no, anything please. I imagine if you were looking, it was very funny. But then my dear wife comes back, and she hasn't seen her cousin for a while, and they have to cut the visit a bit short and blah, blah, blah. So she stays the night with my room, and of course I'm being sick, so therefore I am contagious. And at this point, we assume it's some kind of food poisoning from a dodgy hot dog or something like that I'd had in the morning. We did not know that it was norovirus at this point. So we managed the next day. So that night, Oslo's just gone. The next day, I'm feeling as rough as a bear's backside. We are trying to wander around Oslo, and I can barely walk. So we're catching the tram from here to there and there and there. We got to the park. Fortunately, it was a lovely sunny day, albeit freezing, and I sat on the park bench, wrapped up. We went to the cafe there, which is very delightful, and I had a lemon tea, just a lemon tea. And I tried to eat something, and I really couldn't face it. I really could not face anything. So I was just drinking flat Coca-Cola or flat Pepsi-Cola, something like that is good, but the full fat stuff, not the diet stuff. Because it's like a glucose injection, you know. It gives you a bit of a boost. So I was like that. And then eventually we went to the airport. And of course the flight's delayed, isn't it? It was, we were back very late. I sat on the aircraft, wrapped in myself with my mask on, because international flights are obliged to wear a mask. And I fortunately nodded off for half an hour, so the 2-hour flight was done in no time. And we got home, and I'm still recovering. I'm still worn out. But we got back, and then my wife, it happens with her. She gets the bug, and the bug comes out. So we lost 4 days of our holiday, which is really annoying and frustrating, especially as she works ridiculously hard and she gets worn out and she burns herself out. And I was desperate for her to have a break and relaxation, and she ends up having to look after me. But so that's what's happened to me over the past couple of weeks. Not sure there's anything to report right now. I had every intention, by the way, of making this a whispered one, because I'd quite like to do a bit more whispering, a little bit more old school mouth sound whispering, that kind of thing, over enunciation, that kind of thing. But it turns out that I got too enthused and started speaking in a softly spoken voice. So the next one I'll do will be a whisper. So welcome back to those who've seen me before. If you haven't seen me before, welcome. It's good to see you. And for right now, we'll call it a day. And I'll post this very soon and let you know how the reunion went. So take care. Look after yourselves. Don't get ill. See you soon. Bye-bye.